On January 12, 2025, about 60 nautical miles off the coast of Luzon, the Philippines' largest and most populous island, two ships faced off in a tense confrontation. On one side was the massive Chinese Coast Guard vessel CCG 5901, nicknamed the Monster for good reason. At 12,000 tons, it's actually bigger than many military destroyers. On the other side was the Philippine Coast Guard ship BRP Teresa Magbanua, significantly smaller but deliberately positioned to challenge what the Philippines sees as an illegal intrusion into its waters. This standoff isn't happening in isolation. It's the latest episode in a much bigger story about control over one of the most important waterways in the world, the South China Sea. And to understand how we got here, we need to look at how this body of water became the focal point of rising tensions between China, its neighbors, and the United States. The South China Sea isn't just any body of water. It's a maritime superhighway carrying over $3 trillion worth of global trade each year. Beneath its waters lie vast reserves of oil and natural gas. Its rich fishing grounds feed millions. And perhaps most importantly, whoever controls these waters has enormous strategic advantage in the entire Asia-Pacific region. But here's where it gets complicated. Multiple countries claim parts of these waters as their own. Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, Taiwan, they all have claims. But the biggest dispute is between China and the Philippines, and this dispute goes way back. In 2016, something unprecedented happened. An international tribunal in The Hague ruled on this dispute, and they ruled against China. The tribunal said China's claims to most of the South China Sea, marked by what's known as the 9-dash line, had no legal basis. This was a massive victory for the Philippines, but there was one problem. China simply ignored the ruling. Instead of backing down, China doubled down. They built artificial islands, they installed military facilities, and they started sending their Coast Guard ships deeper and deeper into waters that, according to international law, belong to other countries. This brings us back to the CCG 5901, the Monster. This isn't just any Coast Guard vessel, it's a statement of intent. Armed with anti-aircraft guns and built with fuel tanks that allow it to stay at sea for extended periods, it's designed to establish a permanent Chinese presence in disputed waters. When this massive ship appeared just 111 kilometers off the Philippine coast in January 2025, it wasn't there by accident. As Philippine Coast Guard spokesman Commodore J. Tariella explained, their goal is to normalize such deployments. In other words, China wants to make its presence in these waters seem routine, normal, unremarkable. The response: breaking the pattern. But the Philippines decided this wouldn't go unchallenged. When they sent the BRP Teresa Magbanua to confront the Monster, they were doing more than just protecting their territorial waters. They were sending a message. This new normal won't be accepted. The Philippine strategy was clear. Approach close enough to hinder the Chinese vessel's movement, while continuously broadcasting radio messages reminding them they were operating unlawfully in Philippine waters. It was a delicate balance of assertiveness and restraint. The bigger picture, more than just two ships. This confrontation matters because it's not just about two ships, it's about the rules-based international order versus power politics. It's about whether bigger nations can simply impose their will on smaller ones, and perhaps most worryingly, it's about the risk of these confrontations sparking something bigger. Because hovering over all of this is the United States, the Philippines' long-time security ally. The United States has made it clear that an armed attack on Philippine forces in the South China Sea would trigger their mutual defense treaty. This means what starts as a standoff between Coast Guard vessels could potentially escalate into a confrontation between nuclear powers. The dance continues. As of early 2025, this dangerous dance continues. China maintains its presence, rotating different vessels through these disputed waters. The Philippines continues to challenge them, and the world watches, wondering if this body of water will become the flashpoint for a larger conflict. The Chinese Foreign Ministry insists their patrols are beyond reproach and that they have every right to conduct law enforcement activities in relevant waters. The Philippines counters that these are nothing less than acts of bullying, attempts to change the status quo through intimidation rather than law. What comes next? This story isn't over. In fact, it's still unfolding. The Philippines has deepened its security ties with the United States and other allies, seeking to balance against Chinese pressure. China shows no signs of backing down from its expansive claims. And those disputed waters remain as crucial as ever to global trade and regional security. What we're witnessing isn't just a dispute over territory. It's a test case for how the world will handle similar conflicts in the future. Will international law prevail, or will might make right? Will smaller nations be able to stand up to larger ones? And can these disputes be resolved without escalating into something much more dangerous? The answers to these questions won't just affect the Philippines and China. They'll shape the future of international relations in an increasingly contested world. And it all starts with two ships facing off in disputed waters, each refusing to back down.